The world has once witnessed what destruction can nuclear weapons bring. The terror of World War II is still evident in the lives of people who have survived it. The long-lasting effects of the nuclear bombs used in the war have scarred the environment for the next 1,000 years, and the exponential development that has taken place in the technology used in the making of nuclear weapons is terrifying. And with the possibility of BRICS nations trading nuclear weapons, it is important to understand the sensitivity of this topic. BRICS nations trading nuclear weapons can have profound, far-reaching impacts on the world, which is far beyond our understanding. But before forming our opinion on this trade, we must understand the need for this trade, how it can change the world. Will this trade be successful? And if this trade should even take place or not? Starting from the basics, BRICS is an acronym that represents a grouping of 5 major emerging economies: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Initially, the BRICS mechanism was established to promote peace, security, development, and collaboration, which is their aim even today. But if these countries promote peace, then why would they want to trade nuclear weapons? Let's see. Though trading nuclear weapons is highly illegal under international law and strongly discouraged by the international community, there are slim chances of this trade taking place, which makes it even more important. Acquiring nuclear weapons through trade can be important for nations like Russia, China, and India, as the other 2 nations, Brazil and South Africa, are signatories to the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, NPT, and have voluntarily renounced their nuclear weapons programs. Considering the desire of Russia and China to dominate world trade, acquiring nuclear weapons through trade would enhance their strategic position and security. To them, nuclear weapons can be a deterrent against potential aggression or threats from other nuclear-armed countries, providing a sense of security and stability. Possessing nuclear weapons can enhance their global status as a nation and can give them some unfair advantages, which would ultimately benefit the people of that nation. Having nuclear weapons becomes a necessity for these nations when it comes to balancing the power and defending their territory from neighboring states. In such situations, a country that has access to nuclear weapons can establish its dominance and respond according to the nuclear capabilities of others in the region. Another reason can be characterized by geopolitical rivalries. A country might consider acquiring nuclear weapons as a means to counter the influence or deterrence of rival states. This could be driven by concerns over regional power dynamics and a desire to safeguard national interests. The list can go on and on when it comes to the reasons behind a nation wanting to equip itself with nuclear weapons. It can range from defending itself to expanding its boundaries by declaring an attack on neighboring countries. However, it's important to ensure in both cases that such deadly weapons are used only when needed and not for anybody's personal interest. Coming back to the point, one might ask if Brazil and South Africa have signed NPT and have always advocated against the use of nuclear weapons. Will they become part of such trade? This question is both complex and simple to answer. While there are numerous factors to consider before these countries decide to change their views on dismantling their nuclear weapons programs, it can take place if the situation changes around the world and having nuclear weapons become a necessity. Till then, it's highly unlikely that Brazil and South Africa will become part of such program. But even imagining such a situation where BRICS nations have traded nuclear weapons is terrifying, because not only does it hold the power to change the way the world works, it can also become a root cause of instability all over the world, which might not end well. It's not an unknown fact that the existing world powers would not want any other nation to develop its defense force and have access to nuclear weapons which can provide them an upper hand in international issues. But if anything like this happens, it'll definitely draw a vast range of reactions. One such reaction can include condemnation and diplomatic pressure as existing world powers, including the United States, European countries, and other major nuclear-armed states, would strongly condemn such trading. They would exert diplomatic pressure through international forums, such as the United Nations Security Council, to denounce the action and call for sanctions or other punitive measures against the involved BRICS nations, which can cause tension between the 2 parties. And this heightened tension and rivalries between existing world powers and the BRICS nations could lead to a deterioration of diplomatic relations, strained alliances, and a recalibration of security policies among major powers. Another extreme response would be that existing world powers might reinforce their own arms control measures. This could include stricter export controls, limitations on technology transfers, and increased scrutiny of nuclear-related activities and cooperation. And as terrifying as these hypothetical responses may seem, it's also an undeniable truth that such responses will impact the life of normal people in an unimaginable way. After such restrictions against BRICS nations, the global economy would be destabilized. Trade disruptions, decreased investor confidence, and economic uncertainty would impact the livelihoods and financial well-being of people around the world. Such widespread economic instability could lead to job losses, inflation, reduced access to essential goods and services, and hindered economic development, which would inevitably increase the crime rate. In such a situation, fear and psychological impact of the potential use or proliferation of nuclear weapons would weigh heavily on the minds of people globally. Living in a world with heightened nuclear tensions would contribute to increased stress, anxiety, and mental health challenges, which will impact social cohesion and trust. The potential loss of life, environmental devastation, economic fallout, and overall insecurity would fundamentally alter the social, economic, and psychological landscape, leaving lasting impacts for generations to come. As we have now considered both the negative and positive aspects of this trade, it is important to understand if this trade would be successful or not. While raising this question, we must keep it in mind that the chances of such trade taking place are slim, but never zero. And the success rate of such trade depends upon many factors. The trade of nuclear weapons is in direct violation of several international treaties and agreements, including the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, NPT, and the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, CTBT. These legal frameworks aim to prevent nuclear proliferation and impose strict penalties on violators. The legal obstacles and potential repercussions would make the trade extremely challenging to execute successfully. Another factor would concern the alignment of political interests and motivations among the BRICS nations. Agreement and coordination on such a controversial and highly sensitive issue would require unanimity and a shared vision among the participating countries. Divergent national interests, conflicting priorities, or internal political dynamics could hinder the success of the trade. Also, maintaining nuclear weapons would require advanced technological capabilities, which would require a huge amount of money, and that would be a problem as there will be trade restrictions on BRICS nations, meaning the existing world powers would most likely boycott the products made in BRICS nations and would impose strict restrictions on trade, which will cause damage to the economy of these nations. Coming to the end of this video, it's now time to discuss if there's even any need for such a trade. After understanding the overwhelmingly negative impact it can have on the world, it's clear that there's no need for the trade of nuclear weapons, especially after considering the current global scenario. Not only such trade is highly discouraged by the international community, but nuclear weapons also pose immense risks to humanity, and their use can result in catastrophic humanitarian and environmental consequences. The international community has been working towards nuclear disarmament and non-proliferation for decades, aiming to reduce the number of nuclear weapons and prevent their spread to additional countries. And if a group whose aim is to promote peace gets involved in such trade, the decision will face a lot of backlash from all of the countries. The sole reason for protecting one's territory is not good enough to justify the possession of nuclear weapons, as it does not provide a sustainable solution to security challenges. If anything, their use is inherently destructive and indiscriminate, with the potential to cause unimaginable devastation. And to deal with such problems, we must opt for diplomatic and peaceful means of conflict resolution, along with cooperation and dialogue, which are essential for addressing security concerns and fostering global stability. To prevent any disaster that might take place because of the mishandling of nuclear weapons, countries should be encouraged to adhere to international non-proliferation agreements, engage in disarmament negotiations, and invest in conflict prevention, diplomacy, and cooperative security mechanisms. These approaches provide a more sustainable path toward global security, reducing the risks of nuclear conflicts and contributing to the broader goal of a world free of nuclear weapons. And that was it for today's video. Let's know your thoughts on this topic in the comments section below. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel